The following presentation is a production of Ride the Wave Media.
Hello, and welcome to the Inner Workings of the Not So Genius Mind. I'm your host, Amanda McCombs, in the Not So Genius. We're diving deep into the ordinary mind today to uncover extraordinary insights with my friend here. As I knew her like a million years ago. How many years? I can't even think.
It's been since like early 2000s.
Early 2000s. Yeah, it's been like 20 years. Is that right?
Years. Yeah, it's been about that.
Whoa, I'm sorry. It's that. Wow. Okay, well,
crazy.
Heather and I knew each other when we were like, there was like a model collaborative that we both were a part of, right?
Yeah, the bomber. Well, it was before the bombers because we had a friend that watched your oldest daughter.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And so, because I had known about you, I heard about you before that, but I actually met your oldest before I officially met you. You were still going to the U and you were living up there getting your degree.
Yeah.
And then
Busy.
yeah. And then we did the bombers thing that originally started off kind of as a collective, and then it kind of dropped. So my boyfriend at the time decided like he really wanted to be supportive, so he bought it, and we all kind of worked together that way, which was fun. Like that was a lot of fun nights and a lot of crazy things, a lot of really good women that we got to meet. And yeah, it's been like forever. That's half the places we used to go to don't even exist anymore.
No. Do you know, so I did a photo shoot when I don't think it was my first photo shoot. It was like my second or third photo shoot when I was doing Mrs. Utah America, showcasing all my Mrs. Daybreak stuff. We went to Memory Grove, and every time I go there, I think about how we were in that music video.
Yeah.
And it was like covered in fake blood, but like serving at salt pot roast and like rolls and stuff.
Yeah.
Like a proper meal. Whoops, I just shook my whole camera. Like a proper meal. That was so fun. It was a pleasure dining with you.
It's like we both got poisoned. It was great.
Oh my God.
And then we died.
It was so like, that was such a long time ago. That was so fun. And it was really just like a bunch of people working together to be creative. I remember like somebody would just have an idea for a photo shoot. We would be like, yeah, let's make it happen. And we would go and
even like, and when they did the music video release, they did it at the Salty Horror Pictures, and it was in Park City, and you were the only one that went with me, and we almost got stuck in Park City because it was snowing so bad.
Yep, it was pretty bad. That was kind of scary.
Was it you had a station wagon back then, I think? And we were like, we can make it.
I believe in us.
Hey, that's
it
was a good car.
Great attitudes back in the day.
Man, did you do this?
Oh,
yeah.
Sure.
And then you just brought the small ones along and was like, yep, we're just gonna let them have fun.
Yeah, why not? I mean, it's all part of growing up. I bet, man, I'm gonna have to ask my oldest and see like
what she remembered.
Yeah, because it was such a different life. Like we talk about all the time, because this year, my husband and I have been married for 9 years. And up until then, it was just like me and her, right?
Yeah.
And
a really long time. Yeah, it really was. It was a whole group of our friends that gathered around to help with her. And
well, we all kind of needed each other a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
true.
Man, back then. So, life now. 20 years later.
I know. Like I went through a marriage and a divorce. had my daughter.
Your wedding.
Yeah. Where one of my friends was just all about you.
Oh, man. And he helped me. I remember being so embarrassed because I left my keys in my car and he came and helped me.
He was like that though. He still is like that. Like
Yeah.
he's married. Well, I don't know that they're officially married, but he's with his longtime girlfriend now, and they've got like 4 or 5 kids. And, like, yeah, he's been through a ton, but he was always like that back then. He would help my sisters. He would help my friends. Like he was just,
Generous isn't the right word,
yeah,
but there's like a word for somebody. It's chivalrous.
yeah. He was very full of
But
chivalry.
he didn't look like he
No, like he looks like the guy from the hood that you should be scared of, and he like had that. He had
you
that
don't talk
personality.
to him.
No, you don't take him home to mom. But he's like, but he was really good looking and he was super sweet and nice. But he also had that bad boy, I've got to be cool, like, attitude. And
Yeah,
but
that
he's still got one of those like hearts of gold type thing, especially I see, like, I don't talk to him a ton anymore, but, um, I love seeing him interact with his kids and stuff. And you could just tell like he's grown up quite a bit since, like we all have.
yeah.
It's
Oh my goodness.
crazy.
So we're talking about in some of my other episodes, we've talked about like a moment in your life where you can define your life as like before and after. So I talk a lot. It was actually my mom's birthday on this last Sunday, which is hard. Like this week for me is really, really hard because um, it was about a week after her birthday that she passed away.
Mm.
And so when I think about this moment and I think about what my life was like before and what it was like after, or like with my shingles, what my life was like before and what it was like after. And we were talking about kind of not a midlife crisis and not an identity crisis. What did you call it?
It's your midlife rebranding.
Yes. I love that. So tell me more because I think that's beautiful.
So mine kind of hit when I was 30. I feel like it was 30. Because that's when I had just finished a divorce. I had a couple really good friends around me that were encouraging me to return to school. So that's actually when I started going back to get my bachelor's degree. And shortly after that, I ended up switching career paths entirely. So it wasn't like this big, gigantic, like, oh my gosh, moment. It was more of just everything started to click into place. And I'm really big into astrology. And around 30 is when your Saturn return kind of happens. And so it was very interesting to learn about what a Saturn return is
I don't know
when like I'm still learning it. But it's like this big thing that happens when you're so Saturn takes like almost 30 years to go around the entire Earth, I think.
Okay.
And don't quote me a huge on this. I have a friend that's an astrologer and she's I'm now in my current career path. She's also in the same career industry. And she's also a astrologer and she does like career counseling and she's absolutely incredibly amazing. I am obsessed with everything she does. But we were talking about it. And so Saturn for me was in the house of Scorpio. And so when I turned 30, it came back into Scorpio. I think it's Scorpio. I think. Um, so it was just really interesting about like everything I went through when I was learning later on about a Saturn return, how much it aligned. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like mind blown. Holy
Like
Hannah.
try to go through all of these things.
Yeah, it was the really defining my spirituality. Like, I grew up in the dominant religion here in the state we live in. And even though I left that religion when I was early teens. Like, it wasn't until I got with my current husband, which was after I turned 30, that I really had that safe space to really explore what my spirituality was, So now it's like I'm a very active and open practicing witch, and what that means to me and how that works with my spirituality. Astrology being a big part of that. But it was also like the switch in career. Like, I went from working, customer service jobs into human resources. And even further that, like developing that more into the law aspect of it. It was, going from ending a marriage to finding the man and starting to date the man and then getting married, um, you know, and being in a much healthier, much just overall much better relationship. Finally coming to terms with my sexuality, accepting that, a more of who I am and what I'm comfortable with and what I know to be true for me, like really diving into who I am. But it was interesting how it manifested even in like creativity. Like I went from, like, I worked at a local haunted house here in Salt Lake for 10 years, and I had
So
so much
cool.
fun.
I
So
know,
much
like,
fun.
that was such a cool job. I
Hey,
can't work some TVs.
I do still make them.
Can you get me some TVs?
TV. Because that was the thing, is like I was acting, but then I started making vampire fangs, and then I started making clown fangs, and then I got into the makeup aspect of it. And so I was doing makeup for the past 3 years there and really developing that. I started going to those paint nights and actually just enjoying being creative, which was nice for a change. And even like aspects of my social life changed. Like,
Yeah.
I was known for a very long time just as Casper. Like, everybody knew me as Casper. And I was that way when I was at we have a local Gothic bar here, where I was doing karaoke on Wednesdays and working as a bar back as a second job. And I was doing all these events and cosplay nights and, get dressed up all the time. They were so much fun. And, I had that kind of life, whereas now my social life is very geared almost towards my career. Like, I volunteer for a couple nonprofits. I sit on a couple of boards in different aspects. Like, I sit on the state board for the Society for Human Resource Management. I'm partners with the Virtual Employee Relations Association. And then I do a variety of things in between. And so it's like a lot of my social life now is networking events and luncheons and hanging out, it's just, and it could be that maybe it was just the fact that we turned 30, right? And we just grew up, our lives changed. We got a little bit more serious, but, it also, especially the past few years, have manifested more in my mental health and more in my physical health, like, it's a lot harder to lose weight as you get older, and eating right is difficult, and figuring out what your body responds to is difficult, and that constant fighting and the mental health aspect of it. I was diagnosed with ADHD, which was like a light bulb click. And then finding out that people have been telling my parents that I was ADD my whole life, and they were like, no, it's fine. Only to find out, like, no, it really is. Like, that's really who I am.
I was just diagnosed like a couple years ago.
Isn't it like,
And I was like,
liberating?
but tons of people around me were like, how did you not know? And I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah, what do you mean? How did I not know? Like, I didn't even think about it. Like, but I think what we know now versus what we knew then is totally different, And so working with those, mental health professionals, finally getting the right diagnoses and finally discovering what it is that I need to do to be present for myself. So yeah, it was really interesting how like everything kind of switched right after I turned 30. Like, I finished my bachelor's degree. I got my master's degree. I'm starting my Juris Doctorate, right? Like, it was like everything just triggered right then. But it wasn't some big crisis. Like, I didn't feel like it was a crisis for me. It was more of a liberating discovery of who I was. So I labeled it midlife rebranding
I
because I'm
love
like,
it.
I'm just rebranding who I am.
Well, and I think that's perfect. That's exactly what you're doing. And you have, I was thinking, when you're in, I didn't realize I've been listening to a lot more TikTok and like Instagram, whatever videos where they talk about the religion that we've been a part of. And they keep referring to it as a high control religion. And when you are under that much control and you're told what's okay to wear and what's okay to say or watch or eat or any of that stuff, and you have to check all these boxes and make sure you fit in, and you don't feel safe, you can't open up your mind to do these amazing creative things that you are able to do. Like if you don't feel safe, you're not going to be able to create.
Well, and you just there's no space for the safety, right? You have to create a safe space, and it's hard because it's like I still have a lot of family members that are very active in that faith, and so I try to support them with their decisions. And there's this really good therapist that I just discovered on Instagram, and she's here in our state, and she helps people deal with their traumas from this religion. And, she talks about that she's not bashing the religion itself. She's not saying that the teachings of this religion are wrong or inappropriate. It's the people in the religion that are creating these traumatic experiences, like you're taking away agency from children, and and the people that she's talked with, she's relaying like real people's experiences. And obviously she doesn't break, confidentiality, nobody's information is shared. She does it very professionally. But she's like, over the course of my career, these are common things that I see with people dealing with these religions. And I think you can find that in every religion because it's true. It's very much like, I always told people like, your relationship with God or spirituality is like a big bowl of ice cream. And how you choose to eat that ice cream is totally up to you. If you want to eat with the silver spoon or a wooden spoon, or like the little wooden thing that came with those little sherbet cups that we used to eat as kids. Yes, like flat paddle. Yeah, or paddle. Maybe you want to eat it with your hands, like that's up to you. Yeah, it's your ice cream. You eat it the way you want to. And maybe your ice cream is green. Maybe it's mint chocolate chip. Maybe it's one of Baskin Robbins 31 flavors, like it's completely up to you. But it's your ice cream. You got to figure it out. Like no one can eat it for you. You have to figure that out. And so it's like there's a lot of things with a lot of the different religions that I really appreciate. But it's the people in the religions that are really the facilitators of that trauma. It's how they teach it, and it's how it comes across to people. And I've heard that time and time again, even from people who are currently active, that they'll get some teaching. It's like, I've been told for many people that are actively in those religions, like when they're learning about the things and stuff, that they're like, really, it depends on the person. You can take the same lesson and give it to 3 different people and you're going to learn 3 different things. Yeah. So it's, again, it comes back to that
knowledge and where they came from. And
yes,
right.
And it's very different. So it's just something like we have to kind of take with a grain of salt and still be respectful to others that are within that religion. But that doesn't invalidate our experiences as we grew up, because there is a lot of shame. There is a lot of guilt, and it comes down to like, we still need to work through those things. Like, I think the best thing I've done for myself is go to therapy and work with, mental health professionals to make sure that I'm okay, because it doesn't matter what you do. Like, if you can't be okay for yourself, then you're not going to be able to show up for your family or your coworkers or your friends. Like, it just doesn't happen.
100%. And I think going to a doctor and like, that was huge for me too, because I didn't realize I had PTSD. I didn't realize I had ADHD. I didn't realize I had any of this stuff going on until I went to therapy.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us maybe, or I know I was worried about having any kind of label.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be labeled as having something wrong with me.
Yeah.
And going and finding out what's wrong with me so that I can get the medicine that I need and understand how my brain works and what I actually need to be successful has been that's been life changing.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't be able to, I probably wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be able to function.
Yeah. It's been really enlightening, to go and, just within like a few conversations, it was like instant how, my therapist was like, "Ooh, you've got signs of quite a few of these things." We talked about, PTSD. We talked about a couple other um, disorders and things like that, where when I went in to research them, I went, that a lot of this makes sense. Like it clicks. And
Yeah.
I really appreciated that because one, I felt seen. I was like, oh my gosh, they get it. But two, I realized that as I was learning more about me and getting these diagnoses, things that I had fought with myself my whole life for, and I would get so frustrated about like, why can't I get better at this? Like, why can't I improve this?
Yeah.
Realizing that it's part of the side effects or part of how these disorders manifest in people, I was like, oh, okay. So I was able to give myself that grace and be able to, even talk with like my bosses and say, hey, I just realized this is part of the disorder. And so it's talking about at that point where you're covered under applicable employment laws, because then they can't include that necessarily on your performance reviews. They have to give you accommodations. And it's like disorders don't necessarily excuse some of the issues,
Yeah.
but it can open up a door for a better conversation of, okay, what kind of accommodations can we make for you? I have a tendency to be very long-winded and it's funny because this is very much a Mercury and Taurus type thing, but I am very repetitive. I am very, very repetitive. I didn't know that repetition is,
Sorry.
oh, it's a meow meow. Hi.
This is Freya.
Oh, I have Frega on my altar.
Oh, you can go. She's so cute.
I've got Aphrodite in my bedroom for self-love. And then I have Frigga for motherhood. I've worked with Hecate for a very long time. I have her key.
I've talked about her, yeah.
Yeah. So she's one of my main goddesses. And then Athena is my owl, and she's like the patron goddess of lawyers. Because she's all about war and wisdom and creativity, and you've got to be like, so I'm like, and then I've been working with Persephone because of Pluto is in Aquarius right now. And so I'm like, okay, as I'm having to deal with that aspect of it, well, Pluto is Hades, and the one person that Hades will respond to is Persephone.
Oh,
so it's like, okay, I'm going to start working with her to start like kind of help me through a bunch of these.
How do you figure any of this out?
I'm a research nerd. So like, I'll have to send you the podcast I was on with Jessica. So her podcast is called That Witch from Work, and she's a fellow HR nerd. She is an amazing astrologer. She's a certified career counselor. So she takes astrology and turns it into the world of work. So she reads your birth chart and shows you how that can manifest in the workplace. And it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating about how things just align. I used to write down like her monthly forecasts, and I'd put it on my calendar of the stuff she would say, and then I would track what actually would happen. And there was a day where she's like, this is going to be a day of really big sadness. Like, excuse me, you're going to feel sad. It's going to be down. And we ended up having a rift getting moved to that day. And we had that reduction in force, and it was just like not planned. It just happened. And then there was another day about big communication like that she predicted it's going to be big. And that day we ended up having a huge email go out about a new policy that had just been written. And so it was just like crazy how some of that stuff like aligns. But, and so even like, it's funny because even whether you believe it or not, like it happens. And you can attune it to the astrology. You can just say it's coincidence, but I really like it. I think it's a big part of kind of my practice and what I do with it.
Well, and like historically speaking, kind of been around for a minute, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Well, there's traditional astrology and there's modern astrology. And we have a tendency to go with traditional because that's what the original ones were. Modern's a little bit different. But yeah, it was just really interesting how like a lot of those things aligned. And so I was learning about my Taurus, my Mercury was in Taurus, and how it's like talks about, you repeat yourself a lot and this, that, and the other. And then finding out, well, really that's a symptom of ADHD. And it's also something that I would get talked to about at work a lot, where it was like, you don't need to repeat yourself so much. And I couldn't figure out why I do that. And it was like aggravating my husband, and other people would bring it up, and then come to find out that that's part of ADHD as well. So I was able to go in and say, hey, can I have an accommodation to where when we're going into meetings, you guys can give me an agenda with bullet points of what you want me to talk on. And that way I can prepare my answers before, and I can come in and I can be clear and concise and be contributing to this meeting.
yeah.
And it's going to be all right.
Huge.
And it's made the world of a difference, because then I'm not, looking at these executives and just word vomiting all over them when they really just want.
Oh, I work on it all the time. What?
Yeah.
This is amazing. I have never thought about asking for accommodations. Well, okay. So at my school that I was just at, when I had the shingles go through my face, I had to do all this paperwork because I had to change my job. So I was going from being a PE teacher to being the art teacher. But it was because I couldn't do the bright lights and I couldn't do the sound. I couldn't do, I physically could not do it. It was awful. But asking for those accommodations can be terrifying.
Yes, they can. And it's hard when it really depends on your HR department and how people feel about them. Like I've gone into a lot of companies where they've had horrible experiences with previous HR people. And it takes a minute for them to realize, we're not all bad, and there's a lot of stereotypes that you get with it. And people are like, well, you get into HR, you have horns. And I'm like, I worked at Fear Factory. I've got 3 pairs of horns in my closet. What one do you do? I'm very straight up.
What pairs of horns?
And plus, it helps that I grew up in an area where it's I'm just a regular human being, and I believe that, in HR, yes, we're there to protect the company, but we do that by making sure that the company follows the laws and treats everyone fairly, which means that if you need an accommodation, we might need you to go get some stuff from your doctors, but we're going to help you, because we want you to do your best so that you can be productive. And then that ultimately makes the company productive. So it's a hard thing to, even bring up, because there's lots of people that are like, no, I'm just going to figure it out. I don't want to have to ask for help. They want to be able to do it themselves. Asking for help is somehow a sign of weakness. And I see that even in my kids, where our oldest just started 7th grade and she couldn't find her locker. And I'm like, well, did you ask for help? Did you look on a map? And she was like, well, no, I'll just figure it out. And it's it's okay to ask for help, guys.
Yeah,
it's not hard.
I actually do have a really hard time asking for help when they need it. But I've gotten better because we had to be we are strong, independent people, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was another conversation we had with our kids is you guys growing up versus us growing up is very, very different. We had to be strong. Some of us, our parents weren't always the best ones to help guide us through certain situations, or they were working all the time and they weren't around as much. We didn't have as much hands on, and every parent was different, right? And there was nothing wrong about that. It was, they were doing the very best that they knew how to do at the time. And I mean, hey, we all survived. I mean, we grew up, we made it all right. And, but there also wasn't the fear of social media like there is now. There wasn't as many predators that we were aware of, or they didn't have as much access to us as they do now, and even like kids earlier and earlier. Like, I remember my first phone, I think I was in junior high, is when I got my very first phone. It was one of those super old Nokia bricks, like the little tiny one. And I was just excited when the T9 came out and we could like predict text.
Those are awesome. To like push the button 5 times to get to the right. And then you're like, oh man, I missed it. I have to do it again.
Though I was super good at knowing what buttons to push and how many times. Like I didn't even have to look at my phone to text a full sentence. It was great. But like kids now, like I got my daughter a phone, and it was just one of the little watch phones, but I got one for her when she, like, as soon as she started daycare, like right around kindergarten. So but I also, at that time was a single working mom. So I needed to be able to reach her.
Yeah.
And,
know where she was.
Yeah.
So it's scary. We just live in a totally different world. And there's like, man, the shenanigans that we got up to.
We had so much fun. I just like go through my closet of like the shoes that I still have, because I remembered every time we had a photo shoot, I had to get the outfit. So I had to look at what corset was I going to buy, because corsets were like the thing. We had so many corsets. I have so many. They're all in my grandmother's cedar chest that I have. And I've just got all these. It was crazy.
So fun to think.
I know. I'm like looking at them now going, I don't even know if I'll fit. Frank, I don't even know. But like, we had our outfits, we had the ideas, and it was like, hey, someone would come do our hair and makeup. And, like, it was just fun. It was creativity with a lot of bending.
Lots of bending.
And really weird. I'm actually very surprised we did not have more injuries. I think I'm the one that got injured the most.
Probably. You are the most adventurous of us. Like, if anybody had an idea, you would be like the first to be like, yep, I'll do it.
Let's try it.
Let's go.
And be like, I don't know that I can bend this way, but we're going to give it a go.
Man, I remember going to the sugar mill and doing that rock star photo shoot.
Yes, that was so fun.
But it looked really, really cool. But I could have fallen through the floor. There was just bat poop everywhere.
Yeah. But you looked so good doing it, though.
It was so fun. I would do it all over again.
I took some of the inspiration from that because I decided that like once I lost the baby weight, I needed to go do a bunch of photo shoots. And so I took some of that inspiration, because I went from being blonde to the darker hair. And we went out to Memory Grove. Because before I was doing like this really dark purple and it looked almost black, but then you get it in the sun and it was like this really pretty purple. Cool. But we went to Memory Grove and I did something similar. I put on my big old demonia boots and my white pants, and like someone's like, all right, who wants to be brave and put lingerie on? And we're going to walk down the aisle of this really nice church. And I'm like, let's do it.
I'm in.
We got this. Is there anybody in here? We're just going to walk really fast.
Yeah, and we had a lot of fun, though. I was just thinking about all that stuff the other day. I don't remember what brought it up, but I remember just like going all over the place to do all kinds of crazy photo shoots. And there wasn't like, we never got paid. Like we maybe
Yeah.
raised money for charity or something, but it was
Yeah.
just creative minds working together to do a thing, right?
I just loved the way we made these women feel, because it was a group where, I mean, yeah, we had Kayla, who was, she had modeling experience, and she's, an Amazon and
Oh my gosh.
gorgeous. And
I am actually going to interview her.
oh, good, good. I messaged her and was like, oh, Amanda's doing this. And she's like, yeah, so I messaged. And she's like, she probably has so many though. And I'm like, her story is incredible. I've kept tabs with her over the years, and she is a warrior woman. Like, she's so good. I just,
Well, and like, all these people that I've met over these like 20 years, I can't believe. Um, that's one of the things that I like about Facebook and social media is that I can watch these
yeah.
people, these incredible women that I've connected with, and men, some men, but most of them
Yeah.
are women because I really needed that sisterhood, right?
Yeah.
I don't know about you in high school. I didn't really have like friends that were girls that I hung out with. I had my boyfriend's friends.
Yeah.
And so I really needed that with sisterhood, especially when I wasn't checking all those boxes
Yeah.
in our religion, because I had a lot of people that could have been my friends turn their back on me because that's like what they were kind of instructed to do. Like, don't associate with people that aren't living up to these standards. So, like, I lost that sisterhood. And I think once we started doing our thing, I kind of could get what that felt like.
Yeah. I mean, and just the confidence that we brought the ladies that we were with, right? I mean, because we did have people like Kayla who were just amazing. But we also had women of all shapes and sizes, all height, um, all body shapes, all body types. And, I remember we did one of the runway shows at the Fifth, which is no longer in existence, by the way. They shut it down.
Really?
Yeah, it's gone. So we had our stage, and I remember one of the girls, she was a little bit smaller and a little bit rounder, and we had put her in this lingerie, and she walked out onto the runway, and she came back in and she was crying. And I was pissed at first. I was like, okay, who did what to you? I'm going to go beat them up. Like, we're going to hammer down. And she looked at me and she's like, I've never felt more beautiful than I have in this moment. And I started bawling because I was like, oh my gosh. And like, her husband was out in the crowd and he's whistling at her and he's like, that's my wife. Like, that's my girl. And the whole bar was like, woo! And she's like, I've never felt that before. And I'm like, this is why we do this. Like, women empowering women. And, like, it doesn't matter what your body shape is. You can always find something that will hide what you're insecure about, accentuate what you're proud of. So when you look in the mirror, you feel beautiful.
Yeah.
Because really that confidence has to come from within. And that's what I teach my girls now is like, when you are getting ready for school or, as you're getting older, you're starting to develop a style. And what's important to me is that when you look in the mirror, you like what you see.
Yeah. Hold on. I will see the cat, I think. Hold on. It's her name David.
Yeah, this name David.
What? Oh, okay. We're fine.
Yeah. Oh, she just told you off.
She was stuck.
Oh,
no, it's a girl named David. Oh. She's black and white.
Oh, my poor little
creep.
I had to give.
My black cats are Johnny and Moira.
Oh. I had a kitty right before my daughter was born. And after my daughter was born, he got really, really jealous and was peeing all over my ex's clothes. So we had to give him away. And that was so hard.
These little ones in here are fosters. So I take them to adoption events to try to
get them adopted out of
here. But they're so cute with the kids. I thought I was only going to have them for a little bit, but nobody wants them. Someone take these kitties. It's fun just to think about like how far we've come.
Yeah.
Even though like, I don't know, I've been doing all kinds of therapy and stuff. But when I think about like all our adventures and stuff that we did, I'm not like, I don't know.
They're fun to think back on.
It's fun to think back on, and I don't get upset. And I'm like thankful that I did all the things I did. But like the empowerment thing, I totally get with doing the pageant now because I was terrified. Like this was the first pageant I've ever had.
So proud of you for doing that.
Terrified. I'm doing it again. You
Do it.
It's going to be so fun. Oh my gosh. I have to tell you, I'm road tripping down to Vegas.
I go to Vegas all the time. Where are you going? Where are you staying?
I'm staying. Well, okay. So I've been, but I've been pregnant or with kids. So I haven't like been to Vegas.
Yeah.
Right. But I've been road tripping with one of the other contestants.
Yeah.
We're riding down together and we're staying at the Westgate and we're going for all the Mrs. Utah America, not Utah, but Mrs. America, Mrs. American, and Miss for America Strong.
Oh, cool.
So we're going on to like support our fellow Sash sisters, but we're going to like, she was just messaging me and she's like, what show should we go to and stuff? I don't know what to do. I don't know anything. She said she doesn't eat there and it's great for food. And I've done some food there, but like when you're pregnant.
Right.
Vegas.
So as a Vegas connoisseur, so we go down there all the time because both my husband and I, we do competitive billiards. Yeah. So we're down there all the time. So the Westgate's awesome. The Rio's also awesome. If you want to splurge, Treasure Island has the best steakhouse ever. Because we've done Gordon Ramsay's, we've done a ton. There's a little tiny steakhouse. It's a hole in the wall. It's at Treasure Island, and it is by far the most amazing steak I've ever had in Vegas. Period. Hands down. Little pricey, worth it. They like bring out the Caesar salad as like a thing of lettuce with the Caesar dressing on it with like an anchovy on top. So I just did it like sans anchovy, but like it was super fancy. Like Fremont Street is amazing because they have bands just playing and DJs playing. So we was like, I'll have to send you the video. It was like 90s, early 2000s music played by this band, and her voice was incredible. And we just were like dancing the whole night. It was awesome. If you like sugary alcoholic beverages, the Big V has nothing but Slurpees that are alcoholic.
I've watched my husband drink those because he would go to Vegas for conferences all the time and he would leave me behind and he would always drink them. And then we go and we have to be responsible.
Yeah. So I can only drink like half of one. They are very, very sweet, but they are delicious.
Share one. Okay. So the person I'm writing down with, she actually is, she's like the first runner up.
Oh, it's so exciting.
And she was on Chopped last.
Oh, wow.
She's a chef. Yeah, she's really cool. She has a really cool story too. So I'm really excited because like I get to be trapped in a car with her all the way down to Vegas.
Just teach me all the things. Tell me about you and your amazingness.
I want to know everything. So I'm really excited because
yes,
I'm making new friends.
Yes.
And I feel more sure of myself. So I'm more able to like find people that vibe with me because I know what my vibe is and I'm not trying to be someone else's vibe.
Right. No. And if you guys get a chance, do Pizza Rock. Pizza Rock is over by Fremont Street, and their menus are like the old school records. And they have the most amazing garlic green beans. Their meatballs are to die for. The pizzas are delicious.
She's
Like,
like,
oh my gosh, it's so yummy.
I'm gonna text you while I'm down there and be like, where should we
Good.
go for breakfast?
I love the buffets. Just saying. Like,
I have eaten, because I've stayed there and I've gone to the Bellagio and I've eaten at the Bellagio because I was
Yeah.
like, don't make me walk, I'm pregnant.
yeah,
They had really, really yummy food. I think I had
Yeah.
their toast.
yeah. No,
But like, I need to go to shows and I need to like eat the
So-
things. I heard it's a foodie paradise, so I'm excited.
Yes, and the shows are amazing. We've made it a tradition to try and see at least one Cirque du Soleil show when we're down there.
Oh,
So Miss Steer is really funny. And that's the one that's at Treasure Island, and it's actually really good. I've seen it's got like a big gigantic bird, and the storyline doesn't necessarily make sense, but it's still good. Car is really good. It's like and that one's at the MGM, I think. It's a story plot line about war, and they're amazing. The one at the Bellagio is O, and that is a big pool of water. And they are doing all this acrobatic stuff and diving into this pool of water. And it was amazing. Like, holy Hannah, amazing. Oh, those were really good. I haven't seen Mad Apple yet. That one's at New York, New York. Haven't seen that one yet. That one looks good though. The Zootopia one or whatever it is that they had, I don't think they are showing it anymore. I think that one just finished running its course. I did find out Celine Dion is coming back for residency in Vegas.
Oh my goodness.
Her voice is okay enough that she's coming back. And so I'm like, oh, I need to go see her. I want to make a trip.
Is so much that I feel like I missed out on because, like, growing up, there was a lot of music and a lot of books and a lot of movies that I just wasn't allowed to read,
right?
Or watch or listen
Or
to.
you try to borrow them from the library and your parents would throw them away.
Yep,
You're like, it's a library book.
What is this? I feel like Matilda right now.
Yeah.
No, it's weird. And I felt very much like an outcast, like all through high school. I felt very much like nobody really liked me and nobody really wanted to like be my friend, or that like the girls that were my friend in high school were probably not really actually my friend because there was just so much drama all the time. I couldn't tell who was genuine or like what they were saying behind my back. But like with the bomber, I feel like I had that. We didn't know each other in high school.
Yeah, I think you went to a different high school. Because like I was always hanging out with, I was up at Woods Cross.
Yeah.
So I was with, Ariel and my friend Jenny. And we usually had like the gothics and the gay kids hanging out. And that's kind of was our group. And funny enough, my sister actually married one of the kids that graduated the same year as me. And we've had some really enlightening conversations where it was interesting how oblivious I was to how people viewed me. Where there was a lot of people that liked who I was, but because of who I was friends with, they wouldn't to me.
Oh.
And so I was like, oh, okay, interesting. Whereas my parents always called me the queen of the nerd. But I was like, president of the FFA. So I'd show up in like cowboy hats and my FFA jacket, my cowgirl hat. And, like, cause I grew up on a farm, like that is me. And then I moved to Lehigh our senior year. And that is total cowboy town. And I've never felt more out of place there ever. Like I tried to get into the circles that I was already in up at Woods Cross. And it was like, no, like the rodeo kids you were either in or you were out, and I was not in.
Oh.
And that was hard. So, but it ended up being good because I ended up doing like peer leadership groups and debate, and I ended up having a really good time still. So it was like,
yeah,
that was something crazy that happened too. A few years after high school, like 3 years after high school, I found out that the guy that I dated in high school had been arrested for having women or child porn and videos of like women being bondaged and like raped and stuff on his computer. And I got contacted by the police department because when I dated him, I was 17. So they had to go through and see if there were videos or pictures of me on his computer.
Oh my gosh.
I've never been in a situation where I was physically sick, but I walked out of my office because one of my friends called me while I was at work and sent me the link, and I walked out and I threw up. I've never been more physically sick in my life.
Oh
And
my gosh. How
like,
terrifying.
thankfully, like they came back and said, Kay, thank you for the cooperation. Like, you know, you were not found on the computer. So I was like, thank you. Thank goodness. But like,
I have actually two stories to kind of go along with this, but mine aren't as scary as yours. How terrifying. One of them was, so I dated a guy before I moved to Florida and before I had Tegan, and he was a comedian and he was a photographer. You know, he wants to be a photographer. He wasn't that funny. Anyway, do you remember me talking about this?
I do. I remember this.
And then I came back. I came back from Florida and I like already had Tegan. Tegan was a little itty bitty baby. And I have the news on and I see his face and he's arrested for child porn.
Oh my gosh.
And then I did Barbizon modeling school a million years ago.
I remember them.
And like from the back of the catalog or whatever. And it was just down at the Salt Palace. And afterwards, there was this guy that worked for a production company and he was doing like a kids television series where I got to go to the Olympics, actually. And like I hung out with Alex Boyer. I got to do all this really cool stuff. And then I was like 17 the last time I see this guy. And he wants to do a photo shoot with me. And I'm changing in the other room and he keeps like peeking his camera in and taking pictures while I'm changing. And I kept like, stop. And he would stop. And so I left and I sent him a text and I was like, I never want to work with you again. I was 17. And he kept asking me, well, you're almost 18, right? You're almost 18. And I was like, yeah, I'm almost 18, but I asked you not to do that.
Yeah, respect my boundaries.
Delete every single photo you took of me, and I never want to talk to you again. He was arrested like a few years later for sexually assaulting women and trying to tell them like that's how he was going to make them famous.
Yeah, that was one of the scary things with the bombers was we worked with so many different photographers that there was one that, and these are unsubstantiated, like, you know, we never was able to prove. But there was, hi, I did bloopers. Oh.
She's trying to eat my computer too. Here we go. Continue.
Yeah, there was a photographer that we worked with all the time, and I had a lot of girls complain about him where they felt like, yeah, you remember him? And I think ultimately we did confront him about it, and he, of course, denied everything. But it was like, okay, but at the end of the day, like, this is how you're making multiple of my girls feel. And that's not okay. That's not safe. And yeah.
Well, there was like, for some reason, we were just like things, right?
Yeah.
And you could like do whatever or say whatever because it didn't matter.
Well, and I think too, it depends. I mean, when you're working with women, because when I had worked with the certain people, I didn't have an issue, but I came in very strong, very confident. They always asked before they did anything like, hey, I'm going to adjust this. Is this okay? Am I all right touching here? Are you all right with this? Like, I just want to fix this real quick. Okay, awesome. And for the most part, I felt super safe with every single one of them. And there's still some like, you know, Paul and Preston that I would work with today.
Yeah.
like I love them. And, but some of these other ones, like, it wasn't until I heard other stories that it's like, I wonder if it's like you show a little bit of doubt, or you show a little bit of like, oh, I don't know. And it's like they start to take advantage of it. As soon as you are not strong, confident, you might be insecure a little bit. It felt like they were instantly attaching to that, and then seeing what kind of boundaries they could push when it's like, no.
Yeah. Any kind of insecurity or like weakness,
Yeah.
it's wiggle right in. But
Yeah.
like it definitely isn't like that with everybody. And it's hard to
No.
be assertive. Like I
Yeah.
look back and there's a lot more times where I could have been like, nope, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And
I remember getting asked by a ton of women, like, hey, I want to do photo shoots. Who should I go to? And many of them at this point, I send over to Preston, because it's like, I trust him completely. He's a wonderful man. He's very respectful. Like, and that he's just enjoying retirement now. Or his wife passed not too long ago. And so he's just enjoying life now, as best as he can, with trips and photo shoots and hanging out with his grandkids. And
that's hard.
oh, my heart hurt for him. He's such an amazing person. And such an amazing person. Paul too. Paul was in a motorcycle accident a couple years back, and was in a coma for a really long time. And thank God for his wife, because she was so strong. And she stood by his side the whole time, and they kept asking her questions, and she kept telling him, no, like, he's going to come back. He's going to come back. And he did. And he even came to my reception when I married my current husband. They came, and he's healing, but I love seeing that they're living life to the fullest, and they're out doing things. And I am so grateful for
like
her.
random. Don't they just like take the bike and go?
Yeah. And cars and whatever else it is that they want to do. And
I think I ran into him at Arctic Circle one time. And he recognized me, but I didn't recognize him immediately. But then I was like, oh, yeah.
He's such a sweetheart. I love him so much. I'm so grateful that
we met a lot of really incredible people.
We really have.
20 years. What the heck? Go.
Blows my mind just how much has changed in that amount of time.
Well, and it's not like, it seems like big dramatic change, but when you look over it, it really has taken place over time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I am so glad I'm not who I was. Like if I knew then what I know now, right? People say it all the time, but like, no, really, there's a lot of situations that I wouldn't have put myself in. But like, I just needed people.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely grateful we had the trend that we had.
Me too. It really took a village. I'm proud of you.
I'm proud of you. You're doing incredible things. I would never imagine being able to do some of the stuff that you've done. And like, I've always like, that is an angry kitty. Is he telling you off, or is he telling somebody else off?
They're little kitties having a disagreement.
Apparently. Someone has a very strong opinion.
That statement.
Like, let's use your indoor voice, sweet girl.
She doesn't know what that is.
Yeah. Nope.
She accidentally pooped all over her siblings in the crate the other day. So the whole time I'm like bathing her. She was at an event and didn't want to poop.
Oh.
In the thingy. And on the drive home, she was trying to hold it.
She's litter box girl.
Couldn't hold it. Yeah.
She's like, I'm trying.
I'm trying so hard. She pooped all over her siblings. So I'm giving all of them baths. And the whole time I'm like, ew, David, ew.
They're like, sorry.
Sorry, it was really awful. No, we've come a long way. There's been there's stuff that I didn't think I would ever do that I'm doing.
No. Like, you had all those cute babies and
They're all
you're
grown up.
getting your master's degree. And
Yeah.
that was incredible. And then seeing all your pageant stuff. Like, I remember going to your wedding with Lee and was just like, oh, it's like a fairy tale.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as I was coming downstairs because they were actually I didn't have very many friends that showed up for me on my wedding day, and you were there, and that meant a lot.
I felt bad. Like I wanted to be there more. And I just made it a point that I was like, no, I'm carving out this time. I need to go see her. Cause I think I had met him like once before.
Yeah.
And it was when you were in the apartment
Okay.
and all that stuff happened. And I remember when you were like, yep, we're going to do it. We're going to make this happen. And I was like, oh, I'm so excited for you.
I know it happened really quick. So I don't know. I'm just really thankful for you because you've really been there for me a lot. And I don't know. I've just watched how you've shown up for all these other people, and I'm watching how you're showing up for yourself, and you're doing a really good job taking care of yourself and taking care of everybody. You're doing all the things.
Definitely trying. It's difficult for me. I'm not used to putting myself first at all. And so, just taking the time for me and learning to say no. It's like I got this the other day from Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen and their sister. I don't remember where. She plays the Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, I saw this too.
Yeah, that their dad says no is a full sentence. And that you can absolutely just say no and it's okay. And it was ironic because we were having a conversation and my husband told my daughter the same thing. He's like, you can just say no. That's a full sentence. Like, no. You don't need to explain yourself.
Yeah.
No. Like you can just say no. And that's that. I was like,
Yes, that is not something that we were taught.
no. I always felt like I had to give some kind of excuse or explanation.
Yeah, there had to be a reason. And if I didn't have a reason, then I had to say yes. Right?
Yeah.
So, wow, that's huge. That's a hard thing to learn. I know you've got to go.
I know. I'm like,
It's been so nice to catch up with you. I appreciate you so much. And I'm just really, really proud of you. So
I'm excited for you and these podcasts. I think they're going to be amazing and you're doing amazing.
oh, thank you. I'm trying. Well, if you've made it this far, friends and others, I appreciate you. Thank you for listening. You can find me at Not So Genius on Instagram. Heather, thank you so much for taking a moment to hang out with me and talking to us about all these incredible things. I want everyone to remember to take care of yourself because it's crazy out there.